Hello friends, welcome back. Welcome back to our module 4, that is capacity to contract. Now, in previous module, what we have studied, what things to do and what not to do. That was a long list of do's and don'ts. So those were all about the things, what things to be done and what not to be done. Now, in this module, we are going to study things to be done by whom. Who is the person? Who are the capable categories of parties, of the persons to create or to do these things, to create a valid contract. So that was about the what things, what, and this is about whom, which is the right party. So here basically we are going to study section 11, which talks about the three categories. Section 11 basically provides about the three categories which the law for law is the capable category, and those three are number one, minor. No, I'm sorry, it's major. The second one is person of sound mind. Person of sound, let me write little bigger, sound mind. And the third category is not disqualified by any law. Not disqualified by any law. So guys, section 11 clearly provides for three categories of person. The one is your major, the person who is a major above the age of 18 years or the 21 as the case may be. We'll discuss just after. And then he must be the person of sound mind, okay? And also he must be the person not disqualified by any law in force. Okay, so obviously if these three are the valid categories, then the opposite of these, that is major, obviously the minor. If major is allowed, minor is not allowed. Okay, and then again person of sound mind is allowed, then obviously unsound mind not allowed. Then again, if this not disqualified by any law, so obviously the one who is disqualified by law is not allowed. So disqualified category is not allowed. So it's a big cross on these categories. So what section 11 basically talks about is these three crossed categories. Obviously this major and sound person and the person who is not disqualified by law, they can enter into a valid contract, so no problem with them. So no need of describing who is a major. Obviously if we describe who is a minor, then we come to know he is a major also. So the first category we will be dealing here is the agreement with a minor. Actually what the law says, if any agreement is done with minor is of no effect. Okay, that is of no effect, and whether it's a void or voidable, that also we'll discuss, but not right here, later. Now we are going to discuss the agreement and effect of the agreement with minor. But before we start that, we must know that as to who is the minor and where it is defined. Okay guys, now if somebody asks that where the term minor is defined, so can you tell me, is it defined anywhere in the Indian Contract Act? Of course no, nowhere in the Indian Contract Act. So where it is defined, guys, the term minor, we have taken our first topic, that is minor. Okay, the term minor is nowhere defined in the Indian Contract Act, but it is defined where? Section 3 of what? Section 3 of Indian Majority Act 1875. Indian Majority Act 1875. So they have given you a definition of the term minor, and what this provide? It provide the minor 2 ages for the criteria of minor. Okay, 2 ages. Why? So generally a person who is below 18 years of age, in general circumstances, he is deemed to be a minor. So general circumstances, what? 18 years. Now, for specific circumstances, there are few circumstances where the minor age for minor is not 18 years but 21 years. Okay. This is for specific circumstances, this is 21 years. So what are general? We don't need to be discussed. That is in all other circumstances except these two circumstances which talk specifically about 21 years of age of minority. Now what are these specific circumstances? That again, this is 2. Again, the law provides that suppose if a minor is left without his guardian, without his parents, the parents of the minor died, and now who is to take care of the minor as well as the minor property? So obviously here the legal guardian, okay, the legal guardian of this minor are appointed by Guardianship and Wards Act. Okay, by under which act? Guardianship and Wards Act. Guardianship and Wards Act, what? 1890. This is the particular act, and according to which the legal guardian of a minor is appointed. Then from that circumstances, the age of minority is deemed to be 21 years and not 18 years. Now, one more situation where the age of minority is 21 years instead of 18 years, and that is when a minor is left with lots and lots of properties, even lots, just I am telling, it can be any amount of property if minor is left with, and there's nobody to take care of the minor, not even a guardian is ready to be there. Then what? In that circumstances, court itself comes forward and take the supervision of the property of the minor. So in this circumstances, when here the court take the supervision of the minor's property, then here also the age is what? 21 years. So guys, this was about the age of minor and as to who will be the minor for this very purpose. Now, what kind of contracts can be entered with a minor? Suppose, just let us see an example that one boy who is a minor, who is below 18 years of age, goes to an uncle, okay, a major person, and says, uncle, will you buy my bicycle? Then uncle says, looks at the bicycle and he says, yes, he thinks in fact, yes, it's a good one. It seems to be a new one. Why not to go for this deal? Uncle asks for how much you will sell your bicycle. And the boy says, the young boy says, uncle, I'll just sell it for rupees 2000 only. Uncle thinks that yes, 2000, it's not much and it's a good deal. So he says, okay, give your bicycle and just take rupees 2000. Now what? The young boy goes with rupees 2000 and he just finishes it up in pizza party. Now what? He finishes it up in pizzas and ice creams with his friends, and in the evening he comes back to his home. Now when he comes back to his home, Mama asks, child, where is your bicycle? Now the young boy says, oh, I'm sorry, Mama, just give me time. I'll go and bring it back. Now the young boy comes back to uncle and says, uncle, give me my bicycle. Uncle is so shocked. He says, no, I can't give you that. Just give me my 2000. We had a deal. The boy says, no, I cannot give you. I've finished that, but I want my bicycle. Now uncle goes to court. The boy files a suit against the uncle. Suppose the mother of the boy, on behalf of the boy, files a suit against the uncle. And now what court says? Here court says, look, Mr. Uncle, you have to give it back to the bicycle. Give the boy back the bicycle. And the uncle says, why? We had a deal. Then court says, don't you know he's a minor and there is no agreement with a minor. No chance, no question of contract. In fact, there's no valid agreement with a minor and you cannot claim back your money even. So it is not allowed by law. Whether it's void and voidable is still a question. Okay. Now again one question. Now this time uncle says that no, I won't agree into any, I won't enter into any such contract with a minor. It put me in loss. Now again next month one more boy who's healthy and who misrepresent about his age to the uncle, showing his fake license and all that. Look, I am a major person, I just want to sell my bike. The young boy knows, just 17 years, and he knows to drive the bike also. Even young kids know. Then he says that, uncle, will you take my bike for rupees 40,000? Uncle says, yes, there's no problem. The boy is not even a minor. He is telling that he's not a minor. So just let's have a deal done. So uncle gives the 40,000 and takes the bike. Now again, 1 week or 1 day later, the boy comes back to uncle and says, uncle, I want my bike back because I'm not a major but I'm a minor. In fact, I just want to get my things back. Uncle said, no, I'm sorry, you showed me your license and you told me yourself that you are a major person. Now you cannot withdraw from that. Now what? Again the boy files a suit against uncle and the court. So they both came before court of law. Now what court says this time? Can you tell me? Is uncle allowed because the boy himself say he misrepresented? No, of course not. Even if he misrepresents his age, he can withdraw the contract. He can take back his thing because there is no implication. There is no implication of a contract, of an agreement which is not at all valid. It has no effect in eye of law. So nothing can be enforced from out of that invalid, void or voidable contract. Now the question, okay, one thing is clear that this is not at all enforceable, but what is the effect of this minor's agreement? The thing is that you should not enter, but even if you enter, then what is the effect of the minor's agreement? Is it void or voidable? The question was very confusing. It was very conflicting, and that was not decided until 1903. Okay, 1903. And I know very landmark judgment, Mohiri Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh. It was a 1903 Privy Council judgment. That was Mohiri Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh. Dharmodas Ghosh. Guys, this is a landmark judgment, and in this case, it was settled that the contract with a minor is void ab initio. What is that? It's void ab initio. From the very beginning, there was no contract at all. Void ab initio, from the very beginning itself, it's void, with no effect, with no implication and nothing so on. So what was the fact of this case and what actually were the pleas and all? We'll not deal it right here. We have a separate module, last one, dealing with all our landmark judgments and case laws related to our topics, relevant to our topics. So not right here. The name of this citation is enough here. Now, what is the effect of the minor's agreement? That is, one thing is clear, that is void ab initio. Now next, can the doctrine of estoppel applies on that? Can a doctrine of estoppel? Now let me sit and just deal with effects of minor's agreement. Now, can a doctrine of estoppel apply on that? No, of course not. Section 115, which deals with doctrine of estoppel, 115 of not this Contract Act, but I'm talking about Indian Evidence Act, of course, that not applies in case of minor. Even if a minor misrepresent his age, he is allowed to withdraw back from his statement and can get his contract revoked by court of law. The doctrine of he's not stopped from denying the fact what he has stated. So no doctrine of estoppel even applies to a minor. Now the next thing, does the doctrine of restitution apply? Restitution is what? Restitution is, guys, something which the law requires to restore. Even if you seek your contract to be a voidable one, yes. Now, even if you want to seek your contract, if somebody seeks the contract to be a voidable one, he is asked by court of law to restore the benefits stored by him, availed by him under that voidable contract. But doctrine of restitution also does not apply in the case of minor. Even not the section 64 of Indian Contract Act, which talks about the voidable contract, and this is the contract here with minor is void, so no implication of section 64 as well. Now, not even the section 65 of Indian Contract Act applies to minor. Section 65 is what? It talks about the contract, restoration by the parties to contract between competent parties and not the one who is incompetent. Here the minor is incompetent, so obviously there is no scope of applying section 65 of Indian Contract Act to this agreement, minor's agreement. So guys, not even section 64, not in section 65, and not even section 41 of Specific Relief Act. What it says? Of course, it provides for the restoration of benefits by the parties, but that is if the law requires, if the law find it justified in doing so, and it's on the discretion of the law. And here law does not find justified enforcing an obligation against the minor. So guys, we can see that if the contract with a minor, the nature of the contract with minor is void ab initio, so no scope of enforcing any obligation or implication out of it. If there's no contract, obviously there is no question of right and obligation arising out of it. So Mohiri Bibi and Dharmodas case was established principle for not enforcing any of the contract which are against the interest of the minor, which are against the interest and in fact which impose an obligation on the minor. So the judgment, the law was confined until there is a there is an obligation or there is an liability imposed on the minor. It is against the interest of the minor. But do all contracts are unenforceable, or is there any such contract which is enforceable? So guys, not all, but there are few contracts beneficial which are named as beneficial contracts which are allowed to be enforced. Like if a transfer is made in favor of a minor, that is of course an enforceable one. If a mother wants to transfer her property in name of a minor child, so she cannot withdraw after transferring that he was a minor. That is a valid transfer even if the child is minor. So anything which is beneficial to the interest of the child, to the minor, that is allowed by law. One more thing, if there is some kind of necessities provided to the minor. What is that? Necessities. Many times if a minor is left without the parents and requires the conditions suited to his life, the requirements of his life are not fulfilled by itself. There is required somebody who shall come forward and help him out with necessities. He can be any person, not necessarily his relative. It may be his neighbor, it may be his friend, somebody, or any friend, parents, or anybody. So what if the person providing the necessities is not reimbursed with? So is it justified? No, guys. If the minor is provided with some necessities, okay, what necessities? Now, what is this necessities? It can be anything, but not described by Indian Contract Act. Necessities, it is something, for to establish the requirement for necessities. It is required that the goods which is provided to the minor is of bare essential, the thing which is suited to his condition of life, obviously not something very irrelevant. And the next thing is that the thing which is provided, that must not be already in stock with the minor. That is not he being supplied enough of those necessities. That particular good which is supplied as necessity, that must be lack or that must not be available with the minor. So this is what the necessity is. And so if this kind of necessity is provided by somebody to the minor, is that particular person allowed to be reimbursed? Yes, of course. Don't you remember one thing? While we were dealing with types of contract under module 2, guys, we have discussed one thing, quasi-contract. And what was that? Just let me give you a small glimpse of that, okay? I think you have got this, so I'm erasing it. So guys, that was when we were dealing quasi-contract under module 2. Quasi-contract, the contract which were not exactly the contract, but the law gives it an effect of the contract, okay? And quasi-contract was something which was dealt under section 68 to 72 of Indian Contract. And this was section 68, which was talking, the very first section of the group of quasi-contract, which was dealing with the contract of this kind, the necessities provided to a minor. Now, why law gives it an effect of a quasi-contract, an effect of a contract to make it enforceable? Why? Because that is obviously all the quasi-contracts are based on the principle that nobody shall be allowed to enrich unjustly on the cost of other. So when a necessity supplied to a minor, who is the person in loss? Obviously the person supplying the necessities. And who is the person in benefit? Obviously the minor who is being supplied with the necessity. So if the law does not allow that person to be reimbursed from what? Not from the minor. Because if he would be allowed to get reimbursed from the minor to enforce the money back or the cost incurred from the minor, that would be something getting enforced the agreement of the minor. So here he cannot reimburse from the minor itself, but from the state of the minor, that is from the property of the minor, state of the minor, okay? And here the consent of minor is not required. So if he's having the estate and the person has established that necessities have been provided to minor, that is his claim of reimbursement is valid and enforceable. So guys, this was about the necessities of the minor supplied to the minor and all the effect of minor's agreement. So it's better to be aware of the minor agreement, not to enter with any minor, because just make sure that whatever if the minor fraudulently misrepresents or what, the thing is that law won't allow you to take anything back unless the thing is traceable in the possession of the minor. If he has taken the cash, or if he has transformed or converted the goods into cash or something else, you cannot get it back, okay? So this was all about minor's agreement. Now the next one is what? Next one is your second category, person of sound mind. And I have told you early in the very beginning that here we are dealing with something opposite. If the person is sound mind, no problem. But what section 12 talks about is person unsoundness of mind. Unsoundness of mind. What it says, unsoundness of mind. And what matters which time unsoundness matter? It's not that if a person is of sound mind usually and he gets the fits at regular intervals. Now he is of sound mind, usually he's of sound mind, but at temporary intervals for some moment he becomes of unsound mind when he gets the fits. So will he be able to contract, or if he enters into any agreement, or if he signs any paper during those intervals when he is of unsound mind, is that valid? Because that person is normally he's of sound mind. No guys, of course not. What matter is at the time of entering contract, what was the state of the mind at the time of entering into agreement? Was he able to understand the interest or effect of the contract on him? So if he is capable of understanding what matters, the time of entering the agreement, the state of mind on the time of entering agreement. So one more situation. Suppose Mr. X is a person of very sound mind, and he signs an agreement in the state of extreme drunkenness, when he was not able to understand the paper, he just signed it casually. So is it valid? Of course not, because at the time when he signed the paper, he was not able to understand the terms of that agreement. So if a person is of unsound mind, but usually he becomes of sound mind at regular intervals. Now, if he signs the agreement, or if he enters into any agreement when at those small intervals when he is of sound mind, the contract is valid and enforceable. So it's not the usual nature, but what matters at the particular time when the contract is entered into. Nothing more is required to be discussed in unsoundness of mind. The next one is, disqualified by law. We will discuss few categories which are disqualified. So the person required not to be disqualified by law to enter into valid contract. But here we will deal with the categories disqualified by law. Disqualified by law. Earlier guys I was writing good and better, but again zigzag. I'm sorry for that. Person disqualified by law. Now who are the person who are disqualified by law? The very first one is alien. Alien, don't get confused like aliens which we watch in movies and animations and cartoons. Somebody out of the planet, out of the planet of this earth. Actually not out of the planet, but somebody who is out of our country, India. Now second one is your alien we have gone through. Then foreign ambassadors. Foreign ambassadors, okay. Ambassadors. Then convicts. We can write ambassadors, better to write foreign sovereigns, okay. Sovereigns. Convicts. Then we have insolvents. And finally we have corporations, okay. So guys, these are the 5 categories which are disqualified by law, which are declared not to enter into the contract. Guys, these categories are not permanently disqualified, but some are even permanently disqualified and some are temporarily. So what are those? Just have a look. Alien. The first category is alien, and I have told you they are not somebody from out of the earth itself, but somebody from out of the country. So if anybody is not belonging to India, they are alien. Not every alien is disqualified by law to contract with. Alien friends, we can have 2 types. The countries who are in good relation with us, who are having friend relation with us, those are alien friend. So we can effectively enter into contract with them. But alien enemy, like few countries are there with whom we don't have a good relation, so we have some cold war, some sort of cold war with them. And even though they are we are not in we don't hold good relation for some kind of breach of agreement and treaties, and also with those enemy aliens we are not allowed to enter into contract. And if we enter into contract, that is void and having no effect. Now the second category is foreign sovereigns. Guys, we have ambassadors of different country in our India, and as well as we have our ambassadors in different countries. So various kind of privileges are allowed or available to those sovereigns, to those ambassadors, like they can't be sued and many more things are there. So obviously you find that here one party is in dominant position, he's a privileged class, and if they are allowed to enter into agreement with an individual person, so obviously they won't stand at equal footing, and there are chances that there is undue influence and many sort of other factors which won't cause the free consent. So for these reasons, the contract with, usually there are certain circumstances where the government gives the permit or license to enter with the foreign sovereigns, but usually the contract or agreement with such foreign sovereigns are not allowed. Then the next category is, guys, convicts. Who are the convicts? Obviously the person who was sentenced with either the death penalty, or the imprisonment, whether it be for life or for a certain period of imprisonment. So what matters, what the law says is, during their sentence, the period which subsists, or they are just following, or they are just undergoing their imprisonment or punishment, then only during that period they are barred from contracting. And after they are done with their punishments, they have just fully taken they have fulfilled their punishment and they have just passed it, that period, they are capable of contracting. That is not permanent. The period is over, they are equally capable to contract, because obviously they have completed their sentence, there are no more convicts, and if there are no more convicts, obviously the law does not bar them from contracting. So this was the third category. And the next, fourth one is your insolvent. The parties, when insolvent, when during the proceeding commenced, they are barred from contracting, but after disposed of. And so there are some circumstances when even they can contract, but usually contract with insolvent person is barred. And the last one is your corporations. Guys, corporations or something which is having a legal personality, which is created an artificial personality by law. And all the contracts, obviously we can you would say that yes ma'am, corporations do enter into contracts, lots of contracts they enter. They buy property, they just sell property, they put it in lease, and many more things are there. So how can you say that corporations are not allowed to contract? Guys, that is not complete restriction. I have told you some are having partial and some are having complete. So here is the partial restriction. The corporations cannot enter into all sorts of contracts. They cannot go beyond their MOA, that is Memorandum of Association. If they go beyond the objects of the company, that is beyond MOA, then obviously that contract is void, that is not applicable, and only the area covered within their MOA is allowed. And also companies are bound to enter into the contract under their seal. If without their seal, there is no effect. They cannot more often enter into a contract with individual. Corporations are mostly required to enter into contract with the corporations only. So guys, we have this was all about the formalities of about the competency of the parties. and we have seen 3 categories very well. This was not very long, so till goodbye till our next module.